The night hadn't changed, only the man walking into it. The golden mirage still shimmered beneath the city's endless lights, a place where time held its breath waiting for another soul to bet it all. Ethan Cole stepped once more through its doors, not as the man he was, but as the ghost of the gambler he used to be. Somewhere inside, Mr. Donovan was waiting, and the cards were already dealt by fate. Ethan Cole stood at the threshold of the casino floor, the weight of 10 lost years pressing on his shoulders. The air smelled the same cigar smoke, expensive perfume, and the faint scent of regret. Every light, every chip, every sound felt like a memory replaying itself. He walked past the roulette tables and laughing crowds, his reflection stretching across the polished marble floor. But his eyes never wandered. They stayed fixed on the center of the room, the high-stakes table where Mr. Donovan sat as if time itself had never touched him. Donovan's hair gleamed white under the chandelier, his sharp blue eyes cutting through the haze like a blade. The gray suit he wore shimmered slightly in the light, neat and deliberate, like a man who still owned every soul in the room. When their eyes met, the noise around them faded. "Ethan Cole," Donovan said, voice calm, steady, and almost warm. "Didn't think I'd see you again." "You didn't," Ethan replied quietly. "I just never left." Donovan smiled, not a kind smile, but one that remembered blood and betrayal. Donovan gestured to the empty chair across from him, the same chair Ethan had occupied the night he lost everything. "Come now," Donovan murmured. "Let's not keep the cards waiting." Ethan paused, watching the table. The green velvet was immaculate and touched as if the years between had never passed. He sat slowly. The leather creaked under his weight, the air suddenly thicker. Dealer appeared without sound, tall, pale, his white gloves moving with machine precision. The shuffle of cards cut through the silence like a blade. Veronica Hale stood at the edge of the crowd, her red gown glowing softly under the golden lights, her eyes filled with something that wasn't fear but warning. Donovan leaned forward slightly, his blue eyes locked on Ethan's face. "Same game," he whispered, "but tonight we don't play for money." Ethan stared down at the single golden poker chip resting in front of him. It pulsed faintly, almost like a heartbeat. He didn't touch it. "Not yet." The dealer's voice broke the silence. "Gentlemen, place your baits." The dealer's hands moved like clockwork, steady and hurried, precise. Each card whispered against the felt, and with every turn the room seemed to fall away. The crowd's laughter became a faint echo, the music distant and hollow. Ethan's eyes followed the motion of the deck, the way Donovan leaned back, confident, almost serene. The man hadn't changed, not in style, not in poison. A single card landed before Ethan, the ace of spades. He didn't flinch, didn't smile, but his fingers tightened slightly, a memory flickering through his mind, the same card that cost him everything 10 years ago. Donovan's voice broke the silence. "You still believe in luck, Ethan?" "No," Ethan said quietly. "Only in patterns." Donovan chuckled, a low rasping sound. "Good. Then you'll see what pattern this game follows." The next card flipped over, the Queen of Hearts. Veronica shifted behind Donovan, her eyes narrowing. She knew that card. She had been that card, the woman who once stood between them both. Ethan's gaze met hers only for a second before returning to the table. The dealer's hand froze midair, the next card trembling slightly. The air grew colder, the chandelier's light flickered, and for the first time Ethan saw something in Donovan's reflection that wasn't human. The game paused, but no one spoke. Only the hum of the chandelier above filled the silence, a soft electric hiss that felt almost alive. Veronica stepped closer to the table, her heels echoing softly against the marble floor. Her red gown flowed like liquid fire under the dim lights. "He shouldn't be here," she whispered to Donovan. "You said he was finished." Donovan didn't look at her. His gaze stayed on Ethan. "Some debts," he murmured, "don't end when you lose. They end when you understand." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "And what am I supposed to understand?" Donovan smiled faintly. "That the house doesn't just win, Ethan. The house remembers." The lights flickered again. For a brief second, Ethan thought he saw shadows moving behind the walls, faint outlines of faces whispering. Veronica looked away, clutching the pendant at her neck, the same golden chip she once wore as a necklace. The dealer began to deal again, but the cards didn't sound like paper anymore. They sounded like breathing. The next round began like a heartbeat, slow, deliberate, impossible to ignore. Ethan's hand trembled slightly as the card slid across the table. It wasn't fear, it was recognition. Each card that touched the felt wasn't just paper. It was memory. The King of Spades, the night he lost his father's watch. The two of hearts, the deal that cost him Veronica. The Joker, the card that wasn't even in the deck that night. Donovan's cold smile returned. Do you remember now? I remember everything, Ethan replied, voice low but steady. Then you know what happens when the deck remembers too. A gust of air swept across the table, though no one had moved. Chips rattled, the chandelier above flickered once more. Veronica's hand reached for Ethan's shoulder, hesitant. Ethan, stop. It's not just a game anymore. He didn't look at her. It never was. The cards on the table began to pulse faintly as if alive, and one by one the faces of the deck turned toward Ethan, waiting. The dealer placed a single golden chip in the center of the table, larger, heavier, and older than the rest. Its surface shimmered like molten gold, yet beneath it something moved, a faint, rhythmic pulse like breathing. One last bet, Donovan said softly. Ethan's eyes narrowed. That chip, it's not supposed to exist. It exists for you, Donovan answered. It always has. Veronica stepped back, fear crossing her face. That's the same one you gave me 10 years ago. The night everything burned. Donovan's expression didn't change. Every soul who bets here leaves a part of themselves behind. Yours, Veronica, and his, he pointed at Ethan, still belongs to the table. The chip began to glow brighter, and faint whispers filled the air, hundreds of voices, murmuring, laughing, crying. Ethan clenched his fist. So, then let's finish this. The lights dimmed and the table illuminated from below, bathing their faces in gold. For a moment they weren't just players. They were pieces on something far greater and far older than luck itself. The golden chip pulsed brighter, and suddenly, the walls began to change. The wallpaper peeled back, revealing faded murals of faces, hundreds of them painted in gold and red. Some smiled, some wept, some screamed in eternal silence. Ethan's gaze darted around. He recognized them. Players, dealers, the lost. The house remembers, Donovan said quietly. His tone wasn't mockery anymore, it was reverence. Every hand ever played, every debt unpaid, every soul that thought they could outwit the odds. Veronica covered her mouth. You trapped them. No, Donovan replied almost gently. They trapped themselves. Ethan's chair creaked as he leaned forward. Then let's see if it remembers the man who broke it once. The chandelier above flickered violently, sparks rained down like dying stars. The air thickened, humming with unseen energy. Ethan placed both hands on the table. Deal. The dealer, silent until now, nodded slowly, his eyes glowing faintly gold. Cards slid across the table by themselves. The game had begun again, and the house was watching. The first card turned, the 10 of spades. The sound of it hitting the table echoed like a gunshot. Then came the next, the Queen of Hearts again. The same card, the same curse. Ethan's pulse quickened. The whispers grew louder, now crawling through the walls between the cracks of time. It's rewriting itself, Veronica whispered, backing away slowly. The game isn't following the rules anymore. Donovan smiled faintly, his eyes glowing with a ghostly shimmer. There are no rules when you play against the dead. Ethan clenched his jaw, breathing hard. Then I'll deal my own fate. He reached for the deck, but the cards moved first. They rose from the table, suspended in the air like a school of dark fish swirling around him in a golden storm. Each card whispered fragments of memory, laughter, pain, the sound of fire, the echo of a promise broken long ago. And then from among the floating cards, one emerged, burn-torn and glowing red. The Joker. Donovan's smile vanished. For the first time, fear crossed his face. The Joker hovered between them, burning slowly, edges curling inward as if the paper itself were alive. Ethan's breath steadied. He had seen it before, the card that wasn't part of any deck, the one that ended his reign. His name, his life. Donovan's composure finally cracked. His hand trembled slightly as he whispered, you brought it back. Ethan's voice was calm, but beneath it was a storm. No, you never buried it. The air in the casino thickened. The whispers became screams now. The trapped souls painted in gold across the walls began to move, writhing faces twisting in silent agony. Veronica stepped back, her eyes wide. Ethan, stop, it's feeding on you. Maybe it wants the truth, he said, eyes never leaving Donovan. Donovan's eyes turned glassy, his voice low, almost regretful. There's no truth here, Ethan. Only the bet you lost and the one you were meant to win. The Joker split into midair, half of it flew too. Ethan, half to Donovan, each glowing with a crimson pulse. The table shook violently. Chips exploded into dust. The lights went out, leaving only the glow of those two burning halves hovering between. The men who once built an empire of chance. The silence that followed was suffocating. Veronica's heels echoed as she stepped closer. Slow, deliberate, her eyes fixed not on the men, but on the burning halves of the Joker. "It wasn't you who lost the last hand, Ethan," she whispered. "It was me." Ethan turned sharply. "What?" She reached for her necklace, the golden chip, and tore it from her neck. The light dimmed instantly. "Donovan didn't win that night," she continued. "He only took what I gave him, your soul, your chance, your freedom." Donovan's jaw clenched. "Careful, Veronica. You used me," she spat, eyes burning with guilt and rage. "You made me the stake." Ethan's face hardened as the truth sank in. "You traded me to the house." She nodded, tears glinting in the low light. "To save you. But it took both of us instead." The golden chip in her hand began to tremble, violently cracking open like glass under pressure. From within, a red light pulsed, the same as the Joker's. Ethan reached out, shouting, "Veronica, don't." But it was too late. The chip shattered and the entire room exploded into a blinding storm of light, cards, and voices. The house screaming awake after 10 long years. The night grew heavier, and the storm outside seemed to mirror the turmoil within the casino walls. Ethan's heartbeat was slow but deliberate, his breathing steady, the calm before the strike. Across the table, Mr. Donovan's face was unreadable, but his eyes burned with a cold flame, one that came not from greed but from possession. He leaned slightly forward, his hand hovering over his final chip. Veronica stood behind Ethan, her expression torn between fear and something else, regret. The air was electric, charged with a destiny neither of them could control. Ethan whispered, "This ends tonight." Mr. Donovan replied, his voice deep and measured, "Ethan, this never ends. It only changes hands." The dealer, silent as a ghost, flicked the final cards across the velvet table. The echo of each slide felt like the ticking of a clock winding down. A slow silence filled the room as Ethan revealed his final hand. The flick of the cards echoed like thunder, a full house. For the first time, Mr. Donovan's eyes twitched, just barely, but enough for Ethan to notice. The impossible had happened. Ethan exhaled, a trembling breath leaving his chest. "I win," he said softly. But Mr. Donovan didn't move. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile, more like a knowing smirk. "You think you've won," he whispered. The room dimmed further, as though the light itself recoiled. Veronica gasped, softly stepping back. Mr. Donovan placed his hand flat on the table, and the golden chip pulsed once, twice, then began to glow, brighter and brighter, filling the space with a blinding, otherworldly shimmer. Ethan's expression turned from victory to horror as the air around them trembled. "Welcome to the real game," Mr. Donovan murmured as shadows swallowed the table whole. The world cracked open in silence. Ethan blinked, and the familiar casino dissolved into golden dust. The ceiling stretched upward into an endless void filled with faint echoes of cards shuffling and dice rolling in the dark. He found himself still sitting at the same table, but now it floated in midair, suspended in a space without walls or floor. The air shimmered like liquid glass. Across from him, Mr. Donovan looked unchanged, perfectly composed, as if this realm was his home. Veronica clutched Ethan's shoulder, her voice trembling. "Where are we?" Mr. Donovan's smirk widened. "This," he said slowly, "is the true casino, the place where fate plays for keeps." Ethan tried to stand, but his legs wouldn't move. The table itself seemed alive, breathing, pulsing with golden veins of light that ran beneath its surface. He looked into Donovan's eyes and saw something terrifying. Reflections of countless faces, all frozen in time, gamblers from centuries past. Their souls flickered like trapped candles inside his pupils. Ethan's breath came out in clouds of golden mist. He could hear whispers, faint, sorrowful murmurs swirling around them. The voices begged, pleaded. Some even laughed, the laughter of those who had gambled everything and lost. Mr. Donovan slowly rose from his chair, his movements impossibly smooth. "You thought this was about money," he said. "But here the stakes are souls." He gestured toward the endless void, and from the darkness, dozens of glowing tables appeared, each with a ghostly figure, locked in an eternal game. Veronica's eyes filled with tears. "You tricked," as she whispered. Donovan chuckled softly, the sound echoing like glass breaking. "I offered you a chance, my dear. You both accepted." Ethan slammed his palm on the table. "And this," he shouted. But the table pulsed in response, its surface glowing, brighter symbols appearing, ancient, swirling patterns that hummed with power. The more he resisted, the stronger the table held him. Donovan leaned forward, whispering, "You don't end the game, Ethan. The game ends you." The golden symbols blazed, brighter, spinning faster and faster until the air around the table became a vortex of shimmering light. Ethan shielded his face, but the glow cut through his fingers, searing into his eyes. Veronica screamed as her hair whipped around, her face the red of her dress glowing like a living flame. Mr. Donovan stood and moved, the chaos swirling around him like a storm that bowed to its master. Every soul that enters my table, he said, his voice echoing through. The void plays for the one thing. They cannot replace themselves. Ethan fell to his knees, gripping the edge of the table as the gold light crawled up his arms, burning with a heat that wasn't pain but memory. Every mistake, every gamble, every loss replayed in his mind. Veronica reached for him, her tears floating like drops of crystal in midair. Ethan, please let it go, she cried. But Ethan clenched his fists. Not this time. The symbols beneath his hands pulsed violently. The light shifted from gold to pure white. Donovan's smirk faded for the first time, a flicker of unease breaking through his perfect calm. The dealer, unseen until now, slowly raised his head. His face was featureless, only a void wrapped in shadow, and whispered, "New wager accepted." Everything froze. The light stopped spinning. The void fell silent, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Ethan looked up, his eyes glowing faintly white. This time he said quietly, "I play for all of them." And then the world exploded into white. As the light fades, the echoes of the casino still whisper in the dark. Ethan's fate has only begun. And somewhere beyond the void, the next game awaits. Will he survive the true wager or become part of the house forever? Find out in part 3, coming soon.